This conference will now be recorded.
All right, excellent. Welcome everybody. This is a grants tutorial that we are putting on for the executive directors of the ASA chapters. And I want to introduce Ashley Christians. Ashley is a grant specialist. She holds a BS in economics from Baylor University and has over 18 years of business and project management experience with extensive knowledge of the grant proposal process. She knows a little bit about a lot and considers herself a jack of all trades and a lifelong learner. Diligence, organization, and consistent communication are just a few of her strengths. She left the corporate world to be more present for her children, and Grant Gal was born. Ashley believes it is the best of both worlds to be able to contribute to causes she and her clients are passionate about while raising and providing for her family. Grant Gal is a Texas-based organization, but they provide nationwide service. So Ashley, the floor is yours.
Alrighty, thanks, Mike. Can everyone see, or if you're not driving, can you see the slideshow? Should be, say, grants tutorial for FAFSA executive directors.
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect.
Yes.
All right, well, thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedule to be here today. I'm excited to share a little bit about grants with y'all. As Mike said, I am Ashley Christians. I have a BS in economics from Baylor. I've worked in all kinds of job fields the last 18 years. Most recently, before grant writing, I was a project manager for a heavy highway contractor for 4 years. So I do know the ins and outs of construction. And I've been a grant writer and consultant for 3 years. I've helped my clients acquire over $400,000 in those 3 years in grant funds. I've also worked in a couple different roles for established and startup nonprofits, from fundraising, board, membership, donor relations, and event planning. So I not only have the theoretical knowledge of the grant process, but also the field experience as well in the nonprofit world. Like he said, I consider myself a jack of all trades. I'm a mom to a special needs son, and then we also have 2 other children and another on the way. So managing chaos, I would say, is my superpower on a daily basis. Grant writing keeps my brain sharp, and I get to talk to other adults every so often, so that's a perk of it. Thanks for having me. So let's dive in. I'm going to go over some common grant writing lingo, how, where, and what to look for when you're searching for grants, some good local resources y'all can use, and then a few tips and tricks. If you have any questions as we go through, since I'm sharing my screen, I can't see, like, don't raise your hand, just jump on and ask your questions, please.
Or if you want to put it in the chat, I can monitor the chat for you.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Okay, so first off, let's just some common terminology that you'll see in the nonprofit and grant world. Donor, also known as grantor types. There's individuals. So that is if John Doe writes a check to FAFSA, it's the quickest, and it normally accounts for the largest chunk of incoming funds for nonprofits. And then there's foundation. These are what you probably think of when you hear the word grant. It can be familial funds or trusts left with specific directives on causes important to those who left it behind. These are also arms of for-profits or corporations who give back to their communities. And state and federal, so if you think of like OSHA, Department of Labor, any government or state-based programs, those are what falls under those types. All right, types of grants, also known as funding. There's general operating. These can be used, so these are unrestricted, which means they can be used at the nonprofit's discretion, like less strings attached. So they can be used for overhead, salaries, programming, etc. And then if you're applying for a program or project specific grant, these are called restricted funds, so there's more strings attached. They can only be used for certain things, and it normally excludes salaries or overhead. So it's more, as it says, if it's for the program or for the project. And then capital is, go ahead.
Actually, if I could butt in real quick, we are still seeing your first slide.
Uh-oh. Let's see.
There we go. Now we're seeing learning the lingo.
Okay, I wonder why. Do you see it on the full screen now?
No, we see your presenter view in your notes page.
Let me stop sharing real quick and reshare. Let's see. Kind of maybe it's freezing. Window. I wonder if I share. Let me share my entire screen and then hopefully it'll keep up. Okay, what do you see now?
There we go. Now we see your presentation.
Okay. It on learning the lingo?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I'm used to Zoom, not GoTo. Okay. So we went over types of grant funding. And then, so capital funding is buildings, land, equipment, or any improvements to them. And then research grants are what they seem, normally just in the medical and psychology fields, there's a lot of research grants. So the two that you're normally going to be looking for are general operating and program or project specific. And then a couple other things, terminology wise, the funding / giving priorities, focus areas, request categories, these are all the same name for what to be on the lookout for. It's what category, it's what the funders or foundations, like their priorities, what they want to give to. And then solicited versus unsolicited requests. So some foundations only allow you to apply if you're invited to them, and this will be, it'll be stated. So there's ways around this too. Normally it's just shooting an email when you go to the contact information, or if you meet them out at an event, just getting the right person's contact information, and then once you make contact with them, you can basically send in a request. And then the need, you'll see that a lot. It's the problem your mission seeks to alleviate. And okay, did it go to the next slide? Search strategies.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, we're good.
perfect. Okay, so here are the meat and potatoes of the presentation. So we're going to spend a little bit of time here. So where to look? So one of the first things you can do is Google, and Google's pretty specific if you make it specific, but you put in philanthropy and then your state. So say we were looking for Texas, and then your funding priority, which the funding priorities for FAFSA are suicide prevention, diversity, workforce development, and disaster preparedness. So you would put in whichever one of those you're looking for a grant for, and then I think, sorry, diversity and inclusion can also be added to that list, or women in the workplace as well. You can try broad, and then as you brainstorm, you can narrow that down if you think of more specific ways to say the same thing. And then any of your contacts. So a good starting spot: sponsors, suppliers, vendors, equipment reps, anyone you work with on a daily basis, anyone when you think construction or subcontractors. The first people that come to your mind, normally those are bigger corporations. You can search their names. So For instance, in San Antonio, Caterpillar is a big one. You can search Caterpillar charitable giving or corporate responsibility. Those two keywords or key phrases are how you can find their funding priorities and their philanthropy pages. Because normally if you just search Caterpillar, it's going to go to their website, and that's more of their for-profit. But those two, charitable giving and corporate responsibility, are how most of them phrase their philanthropy pages. And then any funders you find, their websites are normally a good source of information. It'll have dates, how to apply, if you can, what their funding priorities are. Yes, and then there are paid grant subscriptions that you can search. Those are not typically, in my opinion, worth the fees. They're expensive, they're hard to navigate, they don't really have complete information, so basically it leads you to the websites and then you do everything I've just said on your own. So if you would like to try them out, some of them have free trials. I know there's Grant Search, there's the Foundation Directory online, but from my experience, I just search, because like Google and any sponsors and suppliers, just because you end up doing that anyway, and it saves some money. And then there's the 990 tax form. I'm going to show that on the next slide. We'll dive into that a little bit more. But that's one of the quickest sources of information to kind of find dates, funding priorities, if they're solicited or unsolicited funds. And then, okay, so that's where to look. So now what to look for. So when, say you find a funder, you get on their website, they have all the information. So what information are you looking for? You need to know if FAFSA's mission or the project in mind that you're wanting to fund aligns with the funder's funding priorities. So for example, if they only fund children's nonprofits, not going to be a match. You can X them off your list. You can sometimes find, I call them like a rare unicorn of foundation, that they don't have their funding priorities listed, or they just say they'll fund anything and everything if you just send in the request. They are very rare to find. Most people have specific directives on what they want to fund and guidelines. What type of funding is being offered, this goes back to the lingo of general operations, program or project, capital or research. And so you want to know when the due date is, obviously, and it's okay if you find a funder and the due date's already passed. They typically, springtime and then like early fall are very heavy application deadline timelines. But if it's passed, it's okay, because they typically do the same thing each year. So you can add it to your list and just set a calendar reminder to check on that. And for an example, we're looking at the OSHA one right now. So they do it the same time every year, early May, mid-May. So I've been checking that, and their website, consistently just says check back for updates, early spring. So you don't want to write it off just because you missed the deadline this year. Let's see, due date. And also, a lot of people have quarterly deadlines and rolling deadlines. So that means there's no specific due date. They normally you can send in your application, and then at the next board meeting is how they decide, and they'll go over all of the applications they've received in that time period, and then they'll let you know. And then a big thing is the return on investment worth it. So for example, how much effort do you have to put in for how much money you're getting back? If it's a $1,000 grant and the application is going to take all day or 2 days, I wouldn't really say that's worth it. If it's 5,000 or above, if it's 50,000, 100,000, that those are going to be very lengthy and in-depth applications, but you're getting 50 to $100,000. So those would be worth it. Um, and then do they accept unsolicited requests? This will be explicitly stated if they're invite only. And again, if it is, you can just reach out and say, hey, I think my foundation project aligns with your funding priorities. Is there someone I can, talk to about this or have a meeting with? And normally they're pretty open to meeting with everybody. Okay, so the trick, the 990 tax form. So if you find a funder and you want information on their funding process, the guidelines application process, then you can go to the two I use are ProPublica and Candid, and then you search that with 990 finders, and it's their tax form they fill out yearly. It's normally behind a year, obviously, because you file taxes on the previous year. And then once you get to those sites, you can search by the foundation name, and there's 3 sections you want to look at. Part 1 on the form, and it looks like like a 1040. So you'll scroll down, and in part 1, it's either going to say contributions, gifts, grants paid, or grants in a similar amount paid. You want that number to be fairly high. If it's 10,000, I wouldn't expect to get a grant from them, just because in a year they only gave out $10,000. But a lot of the larger corporations are over $1 million. I've seen some in the 100 millions, and so those people, I mean, that's what the foundations do, is they give. So it's a good sign if you see a large number there. And then part 14, section 2, it's the solicitation box. So if it's unchecked, which means they accept unsolicited requests, underneath it, there's a bunch of little boxes, and it should have the contact information of like the main point of contact, normally an email. Sometimes it'll say funding priorities or deadlines, but at least it has the main contact information or website. So then you can go on there and further look for the application. And then section 3 of part 14 is the average gifts they have given in the previous year. Sorry, it's not the average gift. It's all the gifts they've given, which you can then average to get the amount, which would be like how much to apply for. It gives you the range, so if they're only giving out $5,000 grants, you don't want to ask for a $20,000 grant because it'll be denied. But if they're giving out $100,000 grants, you don't want to ask for a $5,000 grant. You want to ask for, a little bit more. And then one kind of a guideline rule of thumb, if it's your first year applying, I wouldn't go all in and ask for the full amount, just because they do want to kind of vet you a lot of the time. So they want to know, is your nonprofit established? Is your accounting, reputable? That type of thing, because there are a lot of nonprofits that do not have that handled very well. And so when they get these large gifts, they kind of get overwhelmed. But then once you get a relationship established, many grantors will continue to fund you year after year. And then this section 3 also has who they gave to. So you can see, if it's similar foundations to or similar nonprofits, kind of what they fund based on the grantees, you can kind of see their funding priorities. If it's a lot of children's hospitals or homeless shelters, that type of thing. So it's a huge, quick source of information once you learn how to read them. Instead of going and searching multiple websites or whatever, you can just go here if you know the foundation you're looking at. So, and then another good way to find grants is networking. So Chamber of Commerce events, I'd suggest if y'all aren't members of your local chamber to join, just because they do have events and it's businesses and corporate folks come into those who are able to make decisions or at least get you connected with someone who you can talk to about funding. And then let's see, the city or regional area foundations, those are also a huge help. These are local nonprofits, local to your area, whose mission it is to help other nonprofits succeed. So they have a wealth of information. They normally have grants that they give, but then they can also help you find grants. They can help with anything under the sun of the nonprofit realm. If you need help, if you need help putting a budget together for smaller nonprofits, they have a lot of meetings, so it's a good connection to have. And then at any of these events, or just wherever you are, it's great to have an elevator pitch for FAFSA. And so this should be about 90 seconds. And as it sounds, if you're stuck in an elevator with someone and they ask you, what do you do, or what is your foundation, you want just 90 seconds, not too short, not too long. It should not have any kind of ask in it. You don't want to ask for money from the very beginning. You want to introduce yourself, form a relationship, and then present the ask. So no ask. It should have an attention grabber, mission, emotion, or logic. So data is always good, and then a memorable close. So when they get off the elevator, quote unquote, they may not remember your name, but in a couple weeks, if they're like, oh, I talked to somebody about FAFSA and they were, doing workforce development, you want them to remember talking to you. So here is an example that this is what Mike normally uses, and feel free to change it up. You want it to be comfortable, come naturally, and then you also want to keep it universal. So at chamber events, it's not just going to be construction people. So you don't want it to be too technical, but then again, if you are talking to someone in the industry, you don't want it to be too simple. So universal. If someone doesn't know about FAFSA, in 90 seconds, how are you going to teach them about it? So the first two sentences are kind of the need, with a little bit of data. So it's kind of like, wow, there's unprecedented need for skilled construction workers. They need more than 342,000 new workers in 2024. I got that from the ABC. In the Compass, Contractors Compass has a lot of good statistics every time it comes out, that you can add to your elevator pitch. You can mix it up. Anyway, and then the next couple sentences talk about FAFSA, their mission, kind of what they do in the community, and then the funding priorities are kind of listed at the end. So then people remember, oh yeah, they said, they help with suicide prevention, diversity, and workforce development. So again, just you want it to be comfortable and universal. Okay, and then a couple tips. When in doubt, make a phone call or an email. So that's kind of, I said it a couple of times. If you can't find something you're looking for on the funder's website, or you're not sure, it says workforce development, but then it also says, only for low income workers. If there's any doubt, just make a phone call, and the people who work for the foundation can normally tell you right away, yes, you're a match, go ahead and apply, or no. And then think outside the box. That comes to like your suppliers and sponsors. If you think they might be big enough to donate, then check them out, Google them with those two keyword phrases, and you might find that they do give, or you can look on their 990s. And patience and persistence are key. So philanthropy is a pretty tough industry. Um, Most people only last 2 years in the nonprofit world. It's based in good intentions, but everyone has their own opinion on what those intentions are. So it's kind of hard to, pinpoint exactly how to get the attention FAFSA deserves. Um, and statistically, 90% or more people you talk to, foundations you talk to, you're going to get a no, but there are those 10% and the money is out there. So keep searching and just stay persistent. People want to contribute and do good. And again, the money is out there. It is sitting out there. And so, I mean, that's why we're here today, to learn how to get it. Oh, that sums up my part. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question, Ashley. This is Jen.
Hey, Jen.
Hey, sweetie. And Ashley, this actually might be for Richard or Mike. So one of my questions was, since this is all, everything that we would be doing would be applying for under FASA, correct? And so if that's the case, how does that work on the chapter level? Like, so we apply for it, and if it's awarded, then like, are we understanding that our chapter receives that to use, or we're just helping to try to get local Texas, or for example, Texas grants to go to national, or what exactly is our role in this? I think that's where I've got some confusion.
Yeah, I can answer that. The main thing is we want to be able to let the chapters leverage FASA's 501c3. And so, if you find something that looks like it would qualify, and then we could use the 501c3 of FASA to help you apply, and then the chapter would get to keep the funds. So it's, it's kind of like a joint effort. We have, Ashley's doing all this work. We have the correct tax designation to be able to apply for a lot of these charitable funding opportunities. So, if you find something that the chapter wants to apply for, and we can help you get that, then you would be able to keep the funds if we got the grant.
Okay,
And a
perfect.
lot of grants, sorry, Jen.
No, I'm good, sweetie. Go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say a lot of grants do have the geologic restrictions. So, they might say anyone can apply, but we're going to prioritize our funding to the Houston area, or to, Central Texas, or to Oklahoma City, those type things. So that's where it'll come in handy, if all the local chapters, are parts of the chambers and are finding out about these grants. Because some grants aren't listed online, like as common, common knowledge or easy to find. So it's kind of the grant searching that will be a big help as well locally.
And then if we find them, do you want us to apply for them, or we send them to y'all to apply, or what's the next step?
I think the biggest thing is going to be how in depth are they, what kind of depth are they looking for? Ashley's building all these assets that she can use to apply for the grant. So, and I guess probably the best thing to do is check with us regardless. Even if you end up applying for it and we don't want to duplicate efforts. So, we got to stay in communication, make sure that you guys know what we're doing and we know what you're doing, and then we could help each other, or jointly apply, or we just don't step on each other's toes.
I'm not so sure that we can apply as a chapter. I know for us, we're a 501c6. So I don't know that any of these grants or opportunities would apply to us directly without going through FASA.
Yeah, and I think that's fine too, and that's a great point. We have the 501c3, so we are able to support the chapters with that. So if we do work jointly together, um, especially like Ashley was saying, if it's a local grant that only is going to apply to your region, you can still leverage our 501c3 by orienting the description, or whatever information they need to say. Well, it's a national 501c3, the funds will be applied locally. Make sense?
Yeah, and there's no question about that? Like, there's no accounting issue there? Because if the 501c3 is housed in Virginia, but do they, and maybe this is a question more geared toward Ashley, do some of these local places, do they care if the 501c3 is housed in another state as long as the funds are being applied locally? Is that explicitly stated, or do they care?
I'd say if they cared, it would be explicitly stated, but it's fairly common to have like a national kind of umbrella with a bunch of chapters underneath it. That's a normal nonprofit structure. So a lot of these
Okay.
a lot of the funders are used to seeing that.
Okay. So yeah. So like it would be the same with like United Way or something else that they would want, Heart Association. They would be, or Red Cross, they would be applying from a national perspective, but potentially applying funds locally.
Correct.
Okay.
Ashley, I had a couple of questions I jotted down while you were going through. So going back to the search engines, is there, it seems like the specific grants related search engines, are they all paid, or is there like a Google for grants, or is the Google for grants actually Google?
Yeah, it's just Google with kind of those keywords or that structure, but the paid ones all have free trials that last like a week, but you don't get all of it's not fully accessible, and they're pretty hard to navigate. I mean, even after doing it for 3 years, sometimes I'm like, I can't find what I'm looking for, so I just go to their website anyway. But yeah, there's just Google. A good, and this is more if you're writing a grant and you need Google, if you need like data or citations, Google Scholar is a good one to find that, to find data in citations, in quotes, because they're normally more, not as like Wikipedia. Not everyone can post on Google Scholar. More verified information, I guess you'd say.
And you mentioned as far as the grant, is there like a special grant writing season? Like, there's more opportunities in the winter than there is in the fall?
Yes, sorry, I did touch on that, but I didn't finish my thought. So spring and then early fall are where the deadlines are due. Winter is kind of a dead season because most of the funders are fundraising at that time. They've got most of their galas, their end of year fundraising campaigns, raising all the money for the next year to give out. So that's kind of a pretty quiet period. They do that's when you'll hear a lot about awards. And so they start releasing things in the spring. So now is a great time, and then there'll be, the majority of the deadlines for the rest of the year are going to be around the end of July. You won't see many due past that unless it's quarterly. And like I mentioned, the rolling rolling basis, which is just around that specific funder's board meeting dates. And then another thing about the patience and persistence, it takes, so for grants over 10,000 or under 10,000, I'd say you hear back in about 6 weeks, but anything over 10,000, especially when you get up into the 100,000 plus grants, it takes 4 to 6 months to a year for them to decide normally. So it is kind of a waiting game as well. That's why we like to get a lot of applications in, and then your chances of hearing back go up.
So I know, I mean, our experience obviously with you is the grants are pretty competitive. Are all grants as competitive as we found? You mentioned the money is out there. Is there any easy money out there that is it just a matter of finding it?
It is very competitive. I mean, the Virginia Foundation we applied to, they got 216 grants just in, I believe it's just in their first quarter one. So it, I think everyone's looking for the money, right? So um, it's just pounding out these applications. That's why the finding the local ones will really help, because then we can just get more and more applications in, which heightens our chances of getting some funds.
Have you ever gotten, and I'm sorry to dominate all the questions, but I've got, they keep popping up in my head. As far as, I know that we were asking for feedback on those grants that we don't get. Are
Mhm.
they, a lot of the feedback we're getting is pretty general in nature. Do we ever get any specific feedback that says, if you'd have done X, Y, and Z, you'd have had a stronger application? And, I think for the group, what does X, Y, and Z generally entail? What makes up a strong application versus a weak application?
Right. Yeah. So a lot of them are generic because they do get so many. They normally just have a blanket like, you had it. Thanks for applying. Your mission is great. We just didn't have the funds type thing. But there are, in my experience, working for other nonprofits, there have been um, the area foundation ones, or the I used to work for a nonprofit in the medical field, and so it was through the Baptist network. But they would actually call you before you submitted your application to make sure you answered everything like as you were supposed to. And a lot of these applications are online now. Back in the day, you had to write these long letters and packets, um, and it was kind of like a research paper. But now everything's online and it's pretty short answer. Um, so from my side, all the applications are filled out exactly as they should be. Character counts, text size. I mean, they want to they ask for these menial things, but they actually are showing like you can follow directions. So when you do get this money, you're going to be responsible with it. So um, that's a huge part of it. And then um, the other part, it's just so the foundations. That's why there's no guarantee. I wish I could say, you know, we did all this right, we're going to get this money, but there's no guarantee because, like I said, everyone has a different idea on how money should be spent and what the money should go to. And these foundations, that they're just regular people reading the applications that come in, and if they're having a good day, a bad day, if they you know I don't know, if they're mad at their contractor, they might just be like, I don't want to fund construction. There's so many things that are out of our control once we submit the application. It's hard to say. But as far as feedback, I'd say medium sized to smaller size foundations will give feedback. The larger ones are the ones that you're just going to get the blanket letter because they get so many applications in. And I know we do have one lined up to talk to that we recently got denied on, but the rest have just been blanket.
Is there anything that we can do? And I want to say the chapters are very creative and in a lot of the things that they do. So, does it help to put together like a video or something that brings more attention to our applications?
Of course, yeah, pictures, videos, and I think in the cheat sheet I had, you and Richard and I had uh, discussed and I sent to y'all, that was one of my questions, was we need more input from like the local chapters, like quotes from members, quotes from um, or like testimonials about why they're a part of FAFSA, or if someone's been helped through the workforce development, getting their testimonial, because that applies to the emotional side. So when funders are looking at it, they're going to have technical, did you fill everything out correctly? They're going to You want some emotional, so you want the need to be real strongly stated, and then how you're going to address the need, so the problem, and then you want the data to show we are addressing the problem. This is how we're addressing it. This is how it's impacting the community. So those are the three things they look at in the application and the projects, programs, whatever you're submitting for. I think, did that answer the question you asked?
Yeah, I think that's helpful.
Okay.
Very helpful.
Anybody
Does
else?
anyone else have questions?
And I've put my information up here, and I believe Mike sent out the slide deck. So if y'all do think of any questions, you find any grants or think of any ideas, you know, if you don't have time to search for it, you can just shoot me an email and I can dig into it as well.
What was the
But I'm here
990
for it.
trick? I'm looking at the PowerPoint, sweetie, and it talks about it, but it doesn't really say like how to do it.
Oh, sorry. Let me see.
Oh, no, that's okay. Or can you just go over that one more time? Sorry.
Sure. So the 990 tax form. So the first bullet, the ProPublica, I don't know if it's .com or .org, but ProPublica and Candid, those are websites. So if you
Oh,
search
okay.
those, sorry, I should have put search. If you put search one of those two things and then the 990 finders, or you can just search 990 finders and those two will come up as well. And then once you get to their websites, you can search foundation by foundation name. So you can search like Caterpillar, or, you know, Goldsbury. Those are some local ones here. And it'll bring their 990s up. And then those part 1 and part 14 sections 2 and 3 are what you're looking for on those forms.
Got it. Thank you.
Excellent. Any other questions for Ashley before we wrap up?
I don't have a question for Ashley, but you, Mike, have any other chapters taken advantage of this opportunity through National yet?
No, not yet. So far, it's just been the ones that we have applied for with Ashley have just been for National.
Okay. And what was it? Can you share that with us? Like what grants have you guys gotten yet?
Well, so far we haven't gotten any grants, but
Okay.
there have been a couple dozen that we've applied for. So, like Ashley said earlier, we are following the persistence model.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ashley.
Cool. Anyone else before we jump off? If not, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bev. It looks like you're off of mute.
No, I was just going to thank Ashley for her time. That's all. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was going to thank Ashley as well, and thank you all for attending. And Ashley, Ashley and I communicate a few times a month, and we try to stay in touch on these things. So again, if anything does come up, and you all want to apply, or you have an interest, and you don't have the time, shoot it our way. Ashley's great at finding these things, and we will dive into it. But Ashley, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. And thank you everybody for today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody
Thanks
have a great day.
Thanks.
We'll see you.